I have never met a single student that can't do maths. But I've met many students who tell me that they can't do maths. And if they say they can't do it, well, then that is our biggest obstacle. We need to change their mindset.
Welcome to this episode of KoaCast. I'm Jason.
And I'm Mark.
And today we're answering or asking that age-old question is, why is maths so hard?
Maths is one of those really interesting subjects, Jason, where you either love it or hate it. It seems to be that there's very little middle ground when it comes to how people feel about maths.
You know, and weirdly in this conversation, I like maths, you like maths, and we have two really interesting guests with us today. We have Steve and Tumi, and they are really from the opposite ends of the scale in terms of their love of maths. And they both love maths, but they're really very different people.
Very different in how they both approach maths, but also deploy maths in their everyday work.
So hopefully you enjoy the episode as much as we did. There was laughs, there were some tears, tears from laughter, and hopefully you learned something with us today.
Yeah, and
enjoy.
For parents who are struggling with their kids not enjoying maths, I hope this gives a little bit of insight into how to get some joy in the maths.
We have two people in the room with us today who maths is certainly an integral part. See what I did there? Integral. An integral part of their everyday life. So first up, we have Steve Sherman, who is from Living Maths. So Steve, over to you. Got 2 minutes.
Thank you so much. Well, allow me to introduce myself. I think that would be a good start. I'm the Chief Imagination Officer for a STEAM-based NGO. And what we do is we go out and encourage students to fall in love with maths, science, technology, engineering, robotics, coding, space, anything that is remotely sciencey. We will go out and spread the gospel of joy that mathematics is absolutely amazing. I noticed when you introduced mathematics, you did hint at the subject as being something that causes anxiety. I noticed a lot of people don't introduce English as a subject that causes anxiety, or science, or perhaps even Afrikaans might also get that bad rap. But you see, it all depends on the narrative. And if you start off by saying that it's causing anxiety, then people start nodding and agreeing that maybe it does. And I'm sure that Tumi will agree that we are out here to dispel that myth, and that math is actually something quite exciting.
So Tumi, you have 2 minutes.
I'm Tumisang Lekoa, and I prefer to go by Tumi, it's easier. I am an actuarial analyst for Holland, Botswana. So actuarial work can come off a bit morbid, I think, for some people. We deal with financial modeling, statistical modeling, and a lot of mathematics to kind of predict future events, right? And in the life space, that would normally be death. Which is a word that, you know, a lot of people don't want to think about, but it's one life event that you are certain will happen in your life. And how are you prepared for it when it does? How is your family prepared for it when it does? So that's so my day-to-day is basically just figuring out good insurance pricing that allows us to help our clients and our partners to prepare for those unfortunate events. So that's about my work. And then as Steve mentioned, I really was offended when I heard that people have math anxiety. I think math gets such a bad rap. Everybody wants to be throwing daggers at maths, but it's honestly one of the most beautiful subjects. And I think if you think about it, it ties into everything that we ever do in our lives. And you know, so I'm an advocate for math, and I love the work that Steve is doing, teaching the young kids that, you know, you don't have to be scared. You know, it's a beautiful place. Yeah.
That is awesome. You know, there are just two people who said, I love maths in the space of the last 10 minutes, and that is not a very common sentence. So I'm going to ask each of you to unpack that. But before I do, to me, you hit something there. I had an accounting teacher once who used to say the only two things in life that are guaranteed, death and taxes. Everything else is optional. But
Yeah.
those two there come in for you. So why do you love maths, to me? What makes it special?
And maths for me is, removes all ambiguity. I love it because it's certain, like I know I was speaking to somebody recently and I was like, it was so crazy to me growing up because I hated English and languages just because I felt like it was subjective, right? It depends who's reading a novel, whether they like it or not. It depends if they think it's well written or not. It's all subjective. But with math, pi r squared will be pi r squared from here on out till infinity. So I love the certainty of it. I love that it's very black and white. It's a very factual space. So in a world of so much ambiguity, for me, it's a safe space. So that's why I love it. I love, knowing what's coming. I don't like not knowing or like having 5 answers for the same problem. I think that gives me too much anxiety. So that's anxiety for me.
That clarity. So, okay, so the anxiety is the not knowing, and maths is about there's one answer, you've either got it or you don't. So, Steve, a lot of people think of maths as quite boring, and I died as you came in to this podcast. It was my very first introduction to you. Clearly, boring is not a word that you would define yourself as. So, unpack that a little for me. How did you fall in love with maths?
So here's the issue. When it comes to mathematics, we have to ask, what is mathematics? Are we talking about doing lots of sums in class? Because to me, she enjoyed the fact that she was given lots of sums, she was able to get them right, and that gave her a sense of confidence. But you see, for me, maths is way more than that. And the best analogy I can give is if I had to ask a lot of students in an assembly, put up your hand if you are not the biggest fan of mathematics. I get a large number of hands going up in the air. And then I ask them, how many of you like music? And all of them put up their hand. And then I tell them that they're all hypocrites. Because you see, if you like music, it doesn't mean you like all parts of music. You might not like rap, you might not like opera, you might not like classical singing, but yet you still like music. So just because you don't like certain parts of maths doesn't mean you don't like maths, you just don't like those parts. So I think it's very important that students get exposed to different ways of thinking and different problems. And unlike Tumi, she prefers the single answer question. I like questions that might have more than one answer, because it is taking a student and getting them to climb out of their comfort zone and challenging them to think. Now, you might think, well, a lot of people are anxious about maths because they don't understand it. Well, that might be the case, but if they did understand it, would they still be anxious? No. So we just have to fix the understanding part. And I have never met a single student that can't do maths. But I've met many students who tell me that they can't do maths. And if they say they can't do it, well, then that is our biggest obstacle. We need to change their mindset.
So, Mark, as a teacher and as a principal, both a teacher and a principal, what bugs you about how most schools deal with maths?
I think, like, for me, I love the question. I'm not going to answer it. First, I want to say something else, and then I can answer your question. And it's connected. It's like I'm sitting here listening to these two. I'm listening to Tumi and to Steve, and I'm thinking to myself, like, we obviously wanted different perspectives on maths here. So Tumi is working in an industry that uses a lot of maths. Steve is working in schools, and he's thinking about, how do we teach maths effectively? We could not have picked two more different people, just like the way that you arrived on the screen, and then how you've described your relationship to maths. And I asked some parents recently, describe your relationship with maths, almost like maths as a person. And the answers that you get back are very negative, overwhelmingly negative. Like they feel very poorly towards maths. The two of you love maths, like you're both passionate about it, but even the reason why you're passionate about maths is so different. So your relationship with maths is completely different to each other. Your approach and understanding of maths is completely different to each other. You've got wildly different hairstyles right now. But like the truth is you both love maths. And I think one of the pitfalls, Jason, circling back to your question, one of the pitfalls I think that we have in education is that we have a very cookie cutter approach to maths, where the way that we teach maths is quite linear, and we expect kids to approach maths from the same direction, and we expect them to feel similarly to each other about maths. One of my real bugbears is in a classroom of, let's say, a really small, South African classroom of 20. We're all going to do the same maths at the same time on the same day in the same way. And that for me is just a real creativity killer. The kids are not being asked to think creatively or expressively or be able to approach maths in a way that gets them excited. And let's say you come into a maths classroom and you sit down and you say, okay, we're all going to answer these 10 questions today. Those 10 questions might be too many for some kids. It might be not enough for other kids. It might be the wrong questions for a certain group of kids. And so we're really asking everybody to do the same type of maths in the same way. And that really bugs me. I think maths needs to be a lot more engaging and open-ended than that.
Tumi, I haven't heard you talk in a little bit, so I have a question for you, because this is centered around maths teachers, and I'm willing to bet that there was a good maths teacher in your history. I'm out in the limb here, so share that memory with us, because I'm willing to bet that your path was set by a maths teacher somewhere along the line.
I think what Steve actually just mentioned, or like the discussion about a parent involvement in you loving a subject, is very critical, because even in my own life, I actually thought about it. So my father is an engineer. So I grew around somebody who loved math. So I don't think, maybe I didn't even have a choice in the matter, because my dad loved math. And so I had that very good support, I think, going back home. So we problem solved together. So because he's a road engineer, so he used to involve me in calculating the curvature of the road and stuff like that. So I experienced the application of math early on in my life. And I think that's maybe why I am, or how I got into loving it as much as I did love it. So it's very critical, I think. And my mom wasn't a fan of math. So I kind of had both sets of parents, which I can see how if I'd grown up around just my mom, I wouldn't have had the same joy for it. But I was blessed enough to have had my dad. And when you speak about teachers as well, because I had such a deep love for the subject, they gravitated towards that. My maths teachers, right? They gravitated towards that a lot. So I had very good support, I think, throughout my school life, because I did enjoy it, while maybe 90% of the class probably didn't. I was that one kid that was very eager and very keen for the subject, which probably made me not the very cool kid.
Yeah, I was going to say you were every dream and every other learner.
Yeah,
well, like,
and yeah, the
putting
kids,
your hand up. Yeah,
very much, but yeah, but it's I think that balance of home and knowing and not growing up in a home where that's a frightening topic, is a big part of why I love math, and I've taken it as far as I have.
I also got something on the back of that, because I also love maths. And listening to you talking to me, like for me, it was my dad as well. My dad is a physics teacher, was a physics teacher, and loved the math side of it as well, but had the wackiness of Steve. So, I would walk into the kitchen on a Wednesday morning, and there's my dad, with my school hat on, and he's doing some sort of experiment where he's calculating the density of the water before and after it had boiled to see if it's different somehow, or he's just like always thinking, I wonder if, and then using maths to solve problems. And that for me was really inspiring. Steve, if a child is in a family where neither of the parents are particularly passionate about maths, enjoy maths, get maths, what do the parents practically do for their kids?
Very good question. Very simple to answer. So not everyone knows all the answers to everything. And a parent might say, look, a lot of the teachers are now teaching you different methods to solving problems. And if we start showing you the old methods that we learned at school, then you're going to become confused. And this is something that's happening in a lot of the schools at the moment. Some students are doing Singapore maths. Some of them are doing different approaches to grouping numbers and adding vertically and adding horizontally. And it's very confusing because the teachers, they are teaching what is commanded in the curriculum and or prescribed in the curriculum. And the parents are sitting there going, well, I don't want to confuse my child because I actually don't understand the method that they're bringing home. Some of the parents, for example, might not have taken mathematics up until matric. And now all of a sudden, their high school student is coming along and saying, so can you explain sine, cos, and tan to me? And they haven't picked up a maths textbook in however many years. But the advantage for kids today is that there's access to so much on the internet that literally you have access to video clips that showcase every single topic in mathematics. If you go onto Khan Academy and sites like that, where you can literally get an explanation and you can pause, you can rewind, go back, you can do it at your own pace. So I think that, students certainly have access to the resources, but my gut feel is that if schools are making maths into a subject that the kids love, and that they have got support structures if they need help, then that would make all the difference. Now, I'm hoping I'm not speaking out of turn here, but from what I can understand, Koa Academy has pods of about 8 students. Now, that's small enough to pick up when someone's not following a subject topic. If there's something that you've introduced, you can always look at that expression and go, you're not following, are you? And it's small enough for them to say, well, I'm actually not, and they can do it. But in a larger group, they often stay silent. And when they stay silent, then you start building misconception upon misconception because they've lost the foundation as well.
So the online space requires a little bit more from parents. So Mark, could you kind of unpack that a little bit for us? Because some parents are worried that they now have to become their kid's teacher. So what does that look like?
Yeah, we get asked this question a lot. I think it's probably off the back of lockdown learning, where a lot of parents did have to become their child's teacher pretty much overnight. And like Steve's saying, kids were saying, like, can you explain to me this math stuff? And parents going, no, I really can't. And so I think a lot of parents fear going into online learning is, do I now have to teach my child maths? The answer at Koa is no, you don't have to teach your child maths. We've got fantastic maths teachers. I love what Steve said just now about maths teachers really need to be passionate about their subjects to be teaching it. Like, one of our beliefs is that, like, we need to have people in the room who, like Tumi, are passionate about what they're doing. And so it translates, it rubs off. You can't fake it and get somebody excited about it. Like, it's just not going to work. Like, when I sit in one of Steve's, conferences or lessons, and you listen to him talk about maths, the kids get excited even if they don't like maths, and that's because it's infectious. And so that's one of the things that we do, is we make sure that, like, the people that are in the room and running the maths actually love maths themselves. And there's lots of support. Steve's mentioned the groups of 8 and stuff. I think one of the things that I would say as an online parent largely becomes your responsibility is making sure that the kids are looking for other opportunities outside the 4 walls of your classroom to engage in maths. And I would put R1,000,000 on the fact that no matter who you are or where you live or how much you like or don't like maths as a parent, you're connected to people who do and who are passionate about maths. You've got a Tumi living next door to you, or at your workplace, or in your extended family. And if you can connect your kids to those people, then that becomes infectious and starts to rub off on them. And you can be really intentional about it. Like, you don't have to be sneaky about it. You can actually approach them and say, Tumi, please, won't you spend half an hour with my child and just do some maths wizardry with them? I don't know what, just get them excited about the subject, and maybe chat to them about what you do in your workplace and why you like maths. Because if it's not your love, if it's not your passion, find somebody whose passion it is and get them to spend some time with your kids.
And I'm going to ask all 3 of you, because Mark, today I'm considering you a maths expert, and as a physical sciences teacher, and we say physical sciences, not physical science, because there's chemistry involved. I have learned this the hard way. If you could go back and change one thing you were taught about maths, or add one thing you wish you were taught, what it would be, or what would it be rather? Steve, I'm betting you have an answer off the top of your head. So I'm going to go with Steve, and then I'm going to go with Tumi, and then I'm going to go with Mark.
So I believe that you need to be the change that you want in other people. And I am going into classrooms being the teacher that I needed when I was at school. You know, it's so important to have students in a classroom realizing that they're allowed to make mistakes. They're allowed to get things wrong. And I was just saying to my group of grade ones this morning, some of them said, you know, the problem is so difficult that I gave them. And just to give you some context, in our story, we had a situation where this couple had landed in a room through a secret passageway, and they found batteries that were stacked in the shape of a pyramid or a triangle. It was basically first 10, then 9, then 8, then 7, all the way up to 1. And I asked them how many batteries were used to make the pyramid. And of course, some said, this is too difficult. It's a lot of drawing. And I didn't say to them, well, there's an easier way to do it. I wanted them to struggle. And at the end, I showed them that, you know, you can do a thing called power couples, where you put two numbers together and they make a nice round number like 10. So I said, what would happen if I said 1 and 9? That would make 10. And 2 and 8 would make 10. And 3 and 7. And I said, if you add all the 10s, that's pretty easy. And they said, that's very easy. But why didn't you tell us this earlier? And I said to them, you know, because if I gave you easy stuff all the time, you'd be very bored. And you'd say, well, this is not challenging. I actually want you to chew on the problem. I want you to try and struggle, because I'm not going to give you the answer, but I'm going to coach you in the right direction. And even if you get it wrong, I don't get upset. For me, the journey is way more important than the destination. I want you to enjoy that journey. I want you to struggle with it, because if I give you something similar in the future, you're going to be more prepared and know what to do.
And I think that creating safe spaces to be wrong is fundamental. And the other thing that you did there that I really like is taking accountability for your own mistakes and going, it's okay to make a mistake. It's okay to be wrong. It's okay to be, you know, well, I didn't explain in a way that you could understand. And I think that modeling to kids that kind of behavior is super important. Tumi, what have you got for us? What would you like done differently?
It's a very difficult question for me, because I think, like I've said, I did get very good support. But I think if I was to change anything, you know, I obviously had the privilege of having a mathematical person at home. And in that, having that person at home, it was the application of it that allowed me to love it. So if I was to change anything about how I learned it, particularly in school, will be more application-based, I think. I think just liking it to everything that I do, or what I'd be interested in it, and how, and asking questions that will be relevant to whatever age group that is, so they see how it applies to their day-to-day life, or not even necessarily day-to-day, but seeing how they can use it in an application kind of way. I think that's what I would change about it. Yeah, because I had that, and because I had that, I always used to look at things and think, oh, but actually, why do we have to have 4 wheels in a car? And you then want to figure out, and you know that's a mathematical question, and you want to think, oh, but then why this and that? And I think that allows you to see math everywhere. So application, definitely.
I like that. And I think relevance, I think that's a really important thing. People don't want to learn about things that they're not interested in or they don't connect with. And so I think facilitating that connection, you've nailed it. Okay, Mark, have you got an answer for me?
Yeah, I think it's something that we've heard a couple of times in this conversation, which is the idea that mistakes can be positive things. And fortunately, when I think I'm similar to Tumi, when I think back to me growing up and me in school, I actually had very positive role models in this. My maths teacher was amazing, never uncomfortable with mistakes. And again, my dad, you know, as a physics teacher, actually failed physics in school, and went on to university and ended up majoring in university in physics, and then loved it so much, went on to become a physics teacher. So the idea that mistakes can be growth points, I think, is really important. And this is something that if I was to give parents listening a top tip, if your child is struggling with confidence, find ways to help them be comfortable with their mistakes. Because one of the real failings, in my opinion, of our traditional school system is that mistakes are punished and very rarely treated as an opportunity for real learning. And so one of the things that I'm loving about what we're doing at Koa is the idea that maths is mastery based, where you try something, and if you fail, you don't just get, black mark, oh, sorry, you got 40%, we're moving on. It's, hey, you didn't get that right. Do you want to know why you didn't get that right? Let's find out why you didn't get it right. Now, do you understand why? Okay, let's try it again. Give it a go. And like Steve says, let's try a different problem that you're going to have to use the same techniques or the same ideas or to solve this problem now. Now, can you solve that problem? Okay, didn't quite get it again. Do you want to know why? No problem. Do you want to know why? Let's unpack that a little bit more. Let's learn until they go, oh, I get why. And then they can solve the next problem and they go, oh, give me another one. And then, oh, okay, I'll solve that one. Give me another one. Oh, this is easy. And then all of a sudden the confidence is there. Mastery-based learning is just such a confidence grower. So I'm loving that. And I'd say to parents who are listening to this, and maybe you are in a more traditional schooling environment, find ways to build confidence in your kids, even if it's outside of the school. Tap into guys like Steve, who are there, who are passionate about maths and can help your child to grow in confidence. Like Steve said, we've got the internet available to tap into opportunities for helping our kids to grow and gain confidence in maths.
So we're going to move on to our final section before we say goodbye. And thank you. I'm very conscious that I promised you that we would be in an hour and we're now wrapping up. So this is a section we like to call Being Human. And the idea behind this is that we're more than just our jobs. We're more than just these passions. And so I have one question for each of you. And I would like to see, what your most authentic and honest answer is. So Tumi, you're up first. If you could travel anywhere in the world, where would it be and why?
Ooh, this is interesting. Where would I travel to? So I recently got married. And ideally, thank you. So if I was to travel anywhere, I think short term, the Maldives. Global warming is happening and it's expected to not be around in the next 20-30 years. So that would ideally be where I'd like to go, with my husband.
That's a great answer. The Maldives, and to beat it before it disappears. I like that.
That was an actuarial scientist response.
Yeah, right there.
20 years, it's going to be gone. So I'd like to try and get there before.
That's a great response. Okay, Steve, my question to you. If you could have dinner with any person, living or not, who would it be and why?
So I've been very lucky to have dinner with most of the people that I've ever wanted to meet. But I mean, if we're talking living or dead, I mean, obviously people like Albert Einstein, Tesla. I just think that the people who were pioneers in thinking back in the day, I would love to climb inside their minds and find out what was it that, and let me give you an example. I've always been fascinated with people and communities. And one community that always fascinated me was the Amish. And I've just come back from the US. I was there and I was in Pennsylvania, and we had a chance to go to an Amish community. Now, you must understand that curiosity has my name as a synonym in the dictionary. When they said I was allowed to go and visit the community, what they really were asking me is, do you want to go and find one person in the community who you can go and ask all the questions you ever needed to ask, and then go and see what their house looks like and everything, because no one else is going to get to do that, and we know you probably will. So I did. And I found that person, and we went to his house, and I asked him all the questions I needed to know about the Amish, because I have this thirst for knowledge. And I think that the biggest thing that I would say to parents is that, you don't send your children to school to be taught. You send your children to school to learn. And if you can inculcate that curiosity, that willingness to learn, to ask lots of questions and not reprimand the kid when they keep going, why, but why, but why? They are asking questions because they are genuinely interested. If you can nurture that curiosity, the places we could go. So, I mean, I'd be happy to sit down with anyone as long as they'd be willing to let me ask my questions, because I've got a lot of questions.
So your dinner with your Amish host was definitely a fantastic one. I think what you've nailed on there, Steve, is a love of learning. And I think that as teachers, that's more than anything what we try and impart on our learners. It doesn't matter what subject is. It doesn't matter what you enjoy learning. Like if we can just achieve that trigger of getting you to fall in love with the concept of knowing more and understanding that there is so much we don't know, and that we're never going to stop learning. And if we can get that right, we know we've got it. I think for me, my own personal motto is, if I haven't learned something new today, then I've wasted my day. I try and learn something new every day. Okay, Mark, you get my final question, and you're going to get so many of these over time. We're going to get to know you really well. So today's question is, what was the most expensive purchase you've ever made that you don't regret buying?
Ooh, good one. Okay. This is not the most expensive purchase I've ever made, but it's definitely an overpriced purchase, which I don't regret. Is that okay?
That nails it. Yeah.
Something that I definitely paid too much for, but I don't regret it. Okay. It's my guitar. No, I'll never sell it. I'll never buy another guitar.
And it still sparks joy. It sparks joy. Okay, so if we want to get hold of you, or if we're interested in finding out some more, because we've got knowledge to share, Steve, where can we find you?
Very simple, livingmaths.com. You're welcome to visit our website. We do online classes too. We do online extension and enrichment, but we also do a lot of events where we, for example, interview astronauts and that type of thing. And the kids are all welcome to join the Zoom session and get to ask all the questions.
That's wonderful. Thanks so much for joining us, Steve. And to me, if anyone is out there in the world, I know that this is not normally your forte, but if anyone is out there and is going, you know what, actuarial analyst, that's my game. I got some questions. If they reach out to me, can I send them to you?
You definitely can. I also do respond to my LinkedIn, Tumisang Lekoa. So yeah, but this has been such an interesting session. Learned a lot from Steve. A lot of ways that I would have never thought about learning. And I think, Koa is doing a very important thing of making learning exciting. I obviously, maybe it's a bit different from the South African market, but the Botswana market is very, you don't get it wrong. And that's how I learned. And, it's good to know that there are other ways to learn, because now that you plan on having kids and stuff, it's good to know that there's a Koa out there for kids.
And just to reach out there, Koa is international. We've got learners coming to you from all across Africa, and we start in grade 4. So we go grade 4 all the way up to matric. We do an IEB based system, and so that's us. Thank you so much for joining us. I think it's that time we're going to say goodbye. Mark, do you have any final thoughts in this second?
I just want to say thank you to both of you. This has been a lot of fun. I came in loving maths. I'm leaving loving maths even more. And I think for parents who are listening in on this, no matter what their context is, like the message is positive. Like there are opportunities to get our kids excited about maths, and it's definitely worth it.
Thank you so much. Okay, so I think it's that time. And thanks everybody for joining us, and we'll catch you on the next KoaCast on all platforms. Like and subscribe below.
Thank you.
That was fun.
Thank you.
Cheers, everyone.
Bye.